and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and film. I'm Stephen, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And Ryan.
I'm here also again.
He is, in fact, here. For this episode, it is a 007 doubleheader. We are talking about Pierce Brosnan. That means we're doing GoldenEye.
Remington Steele himself.
No, stop, please. And Tomorrow Never Dies. So for an overview of this format, it's a bit different from our standard. We are taking a crack at the two highest rated movies per Bond actor on IMDb.
Yeah, so if your favorite, Die Another Day, Pierce Brosnan film was not on this
Why
list.
is that your favorite,
all
first
12
of all?
people who are also confirmed serial killers.
If it wasn't on that, high enough, then it did not make the cut.
Right.
You got to get people out there. Grassroots campaign. Get that IMDb review up, okay?
We wanted a very impartial source, so we went to the angry people at IMDb.
Yes.
Yeah, these are not our favorite two, although there might be for the Pierce Brosnan.
I'm pretty sure they are.
I'm pretty sure they
I think
are.
for the most part, what IMDb has rated as the favorite was either very close or the same as what we were going to go with. There was just one or two differences.
Yeah, throughout the whole series, I think there's only been, maybe one or two.
One or two, yeah. And in that case, it was like, well, the one we wanted was the next one down. It was like, well, tough. We missed it.
Yeah.
So this is, again, a different format. We're just kind of getting here, do a little roundtable discussion. There is no spoiler wall, so go ahead and be warned. If somehow at this point you have not seen 1995's GoldenEye or 1997's Tomorrow Never Dies, punch out, come back in a little bit.
Go watch them.
Because we're going to spoil them.
They're good films.
They are.
They are. They're actually, they're pretty fun.
They are very fun.
Yeah.
So let's kick it off. Let's talk about, well, first, this is all building up. We've been doing this now for months.
Yes.
And we're building up.
Years, it feels like.
We're building up to a very special Patreon exclusive episode where we're going to go in and rank the best Bond actors. And if you are already a patron and you have listened to us ranking Bond intros, it can be very contentious, and I suspect that episode will be the same.
I'm pretty sure, this is going to be a really
we have two very big Bond fans.
Bond-philes, I don't know.
Bond-ophiles, I don't know.
Bond-ophiles.
Bond perverts, I think, is the correct nomenclature.
The correct nomenclature.
Yes.
And then, sorry, Lando. And then also me. I just
we have a cat with us today because it is cold and he's annoyed.
And
Fourth member of the cast, Lando, is here.
So you may or may not hear a cat meowing every once in a while. We're trying to build up to ranking all the Bond actors, but because we wanted to do that initially, and then we're like, well, wait, we need to have an objective.
We need to build up some body of work here and actually look at these guys and have some discussion prior to so we can relate back, right?
Yep. So
but
if
you
you
said back in episode 12 that you loved him.
I mean, that's fine. I actually like all the Bond actors, but there are definitely ones that are better than others.
They all are their different flavor of cake.
Yes.
They're all like,
I
enjoy it all, but they're all like uniquely different. And if you haven't listened, go back through our feed. We have an episode on Connery Bonds. We have
Roger Moore, Timothy
Dalton, and George Lazenby
together.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. So we're going to kick this off with GoldenEye.
Yep. The first
Pierce
revival. And this is probably the first Bond that all of us saw in theaters.
Yes.
I saw
it in theaters. I mean, what is the Dalton's
License to Kill?
I kept trying to call it View to Kill. I was like, that's not it.
That's another bad one.
I know, it's another one. But License to Kill was 89.
Yes.
And then this is 95.
Yep.
So also that 6-year gap is the largest gap between
a Bond film
since it started in 62.
So they actually were supposed to have one in, I think, 92 or 93. And it got kind of canned. And then they were just like, well, we're just going to have to delay it out till 95, essentially.
Was that going to be another Dalton? Or
was going to be another Dalton.
So, fun fact, Bond fact.
Bond fact.
GoldenEye was written with Timothy Dalton in mind.
It was.
They expected him to be the Bond for this movie.
Gotcha. What happened there? Did Dalton have other work, or did they not?
I didn't run across anything that told me exactly.
I think it was just... I think Dalton did want to do it, and I think that there was maybe some kind of contract dispute or something, and it just
there were
not
still
happening.
ongoing contract disputes and legal issues that have been going on throughout basically the whole entirety of the Bond film franchise.
Yeah, which is why you don't see Blofeld show up until like Spectre in 90 or 2016 or something like that.
Yeah,
which is wild to me. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, that kind of stuff always.
I mean, legal battles take a very long time to resolve.
Yeah.
Well, and you have appeals and everything else. Anyways, enough about this. Is not a legal podcast. We're here to talk about GoldenEye, so let's kick it off with a synopsis. Real simple stuff here. Years after a friend and fellow 00 agent is killed on a joint mission, a Russian crime syndicate steals a secret space-based weapons program known as GoldenEye, and James Bond has to stop them from using it. That's pretty basic.
It is
Bond stuff.
Yeah, end of the world level things. You want to try and.
I wouldn't call it end of the world. It's not a nuclear apocalypse or that kind of thing.
I mean, they're blowing up EMPs in the atmosphere,
but they only have 2 shots, right?
Yeah.
So it's a question, and they use the first one pretty early. So it's a question of maximizing the value of the second one.
Yeah.
And I do think Bond's reaction once the big bad guy monologues and reveals his plan is kind of like, what? You're just a petty criminal.
Yeah.
This is weak stuff.
He's just basically trying to blow up or remove all the records of the London Bank Exchange.
Right.
To
so basically collapse Britain's economy and thereby affect the entire world's economy.
While
to a
also
degree.
stealing millions and millions of
stealing
dollars.
tons of money in the process.
Making lots of money. Yeah.
So, Andrew, who is this directed by?
Martin Campbell.
Martin Campbell. What else has he done?
That's a great question. So Martin Campbell, just from some of the stuff that I've seen, is an absolute terror to deal with.
Oh, really?
Yes, like James Cameron levels of like just very particular about his stuff. So he did The Mask of Zorro. Martin Campbell has a varied directorial list. So he also did Casino Royale, which has Daniel Craig.
Casino Royale.
But he also did Green Lantern.
Ooh,
wow. Okay.
Boy, we are very up and down.
What a swing there.
Yeah. Obviously, he did GoldenEye, Edge of Darkness. There's a TV miniseries for 1985.
That sounds familiar.
But yeah, so the big ones was Casino Royale, GoldenEye, and Mask of Zorro.
Which is impressive to me because Casino Royale and GoldenEye have a very different feel to them. And that the same guy directed them is it's not like watching a Spielberg movie where you're like, oh, the same guy directed these. Obviously,
So he also did The Foreigner, which is another Pierce Brosnan film with Jackie Chan in it. Fantastic film if you haven't seen it.
It is good.
Yeah.
So GoldenEye was made on a budget of $60 million.
That sounds about right.
It's a pretty big jump.
They actually had to build an entire set out of an old Rolls-Royce factory.
Yes. So when they built out the St. Petersburg, which they trash with the tank later on, they employed an Eastern European architect and a Russian engineer to help with the design, both of whom asked to be uncredited.
I could see that.
Well, and they did actually shoot a decent amount in St. Petersburg.
Which is wild.
Not St. Petersburg. It was there was some on location in Russia.
There was some,
but it wasn't like them destroying the city.
Right. Well, but
obviously.
they also even the airport scenes in St. Petersburg aren't in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
Because Russia had enough turmoil that the entire production would have had to have had bodyguards.
Oh.
So they were like, well, that's far too high a cost. So they actually shot it at an airport in England.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on here. Obviously, they didn't drive a tank through St. Petersburg, although there were many Russian newscasts that got a hold of that as they're destroying our artifacts and our treasures.
Oh my God.
Because the statue and everything else.
Capitalist pigs. Ruining our architecture.
But it did quite well in the box office. Made $356 million.
That's a good return
on $60 million. That's pretty solid.
Yeah. Especially for mid 90s money. That's quite good.
Yeah.
But now this is definitely one of those films, I think, that is like a kind of like a flashpoint for Bond fans and people that like the franchise, because this was very fresh. You were coming off of Timothy Dalton, which they're both kind of similar in like how they play the characters, but it's a very different feel.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I think Brosnan again, this is biased because it's the first one I saw in theater. But when I think James Bond, that's face I see.
That's what you think of, yeah.
Because he nails the style and the swagger while also looking like someone who is actually capable of doing some of these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the other thing is too, I think he
Roger
actually
Moore.
Well, yeah. I think Pierce Brosnan is kind of like the amalgamation of every other Bond.
Up to that point. He's got a bit of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is some camp in these films, but definitely. Not the level of Roger Moore camp, but you definitely have a good balance, I think. There's some really fun quips in there, and he definitely looks like the type of person that would be doing this.
And I think he can nail the serious, the hard-edged Bond really well.
Like cold-blooded killer.
I feel like Dalton did that part really well, but struggled with the camp a little bit, where I think... Pierce Brosnan can like oscillate between the two pretty effortlessly. It seems like.
Well, and I know that they had wanted him to be Bond for years.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he was on set before Dalton was tapped to be Bond, right? If I remember right from that episode.
But because of Remington Steele was kind of his thing, and they were like, "Well, we can try and do it together," and they're like, "No, we need to have you all here for Remington Steele," and then So then that kind of happened, and that's why we had Timothy Dalton for two movies, and then we moved on to Pierce Brosnan.
Have y'all ever seen Remington Steele?
No.
So my mom was a big fan, and I watched it when I was a kid. It wasn't like I didn't watch it like religiously, like I watched other stuff or whatever. But it's James Bond-esque, but it's more like a Magnum PI, Murder She Wrote. It's more of a like that type. Of, it's not really so much espionage.
It's a crime drama,
if I remember right. Caveat here, it's been 30 years since I've watched an episode.
So there had to be a lot of changes to the script. First, it's the first Bond film that is not based on any Ian Fleming work.
Yep, I do remember.
There's no basis in the story because it is also after the fall of
Russia.
Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Russia's still there, Andrew.
It is.
We visited it. So they had to make a lot of changes to the script during production, because the initial plot was virtually identical to True Lies, which had come out in 94.
Oh, man.
So they were like in production, and True Lies came out, and they were like, oh, crap.
Somebody copied our homework.
If you've never seen True Lies, this is a great film.
Another fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great film.
It's ridiculous, but it's fun.
Do it, Dulcima.
So I do like, and I want to get just some opinions here, right? For me, and I think for y'all, we're all in that same era. This movie has so much nostalgia, not just because of the movie, but we were all playing GoldenEye 64.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Telling your friend that they're not allowed to play Odd Job.
That was one of the three games that I had on N64.
One of three?
One of three.
Okay. All right. You don't need a ton of
Mario
don't
Kart,
think I had a lot
GoldenEye, and Mario 64.
No, I had Smash Brothers.
There it is.
I did not own Mario Kart 64.
Wow.
What a clown.
GoldenEye, Shadows of the Empire, and, and Smash Brothers. Those were the three. I rented the other ones, but those were the three that I had.
I think I had Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time, and Star Fox 64.
This is another thing that I think kids today don't understand. Is I remember going, I did not have an N64, but my cousins did.
Yeah.
And so I played it all the time because we were always over at my grandparents' house. And I went over to my buddy Charles's house who had an N64. He went with me to see GoldenEye in theaters.
Yeah. Right.
And again, for both, it was, I think, his first Bond movie ever. And for me, I had watched, a bunch. Yeah. It was my first in theaters.
Yeah.
And we both just left floored,
blown away.
It's amazing, right?
He had an N64, and I went with him to go get it, and it was $89 to buy GoldenEye.
In 1995
In 95, okay?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. I remember when I got Donkey Kong Country on Super Nintendo before that, it was $89. And everybody today is like, $69 for a game. I'm like, dude, we paid out the nose in the 90s for these cartridges.
So this was actually during a time where there was no regulation on what game companies could charge.
Yeah.
And then because of the 90s, they fixed that. To have a much more standardized kind of
I think, too, it was dependent upon the store also.
It was. Cable Toys could just, put on whatever they wanted.
In our little town, we had Walmart, and that was it. So I think they may have jacked it up a little bit. Like, if you'd driven a little further away, you probably could have got it for $70. But we had $89. I remember being like, that's almost $100.
Well, but I definitely...
worth every penny.
I absolutely think that a lot of our generation's love for GoldenEye is absolutely augmented because of the game.
Well, I can hear
to a degree
all of the soundtrack because of it was the soundtrack in the game too, right?
Yeah. Like the pause music. Oh yeah.
Pause music hits, that like pop sound that makes throughout the movie.
Yeah.
That I cannot emulate with my mouth at all.
Well, it's so in like the score for this film is quite good because it's so unique to just this film.
Yes, it has some of the classic Bond, in there, but it also has very much its own flavor.
It does,
and sometimes that flavor is a little sour.
Well,
like the Zinnia when she appears in the Ferrari.
Okay, that one
that's like very 90s.
And I was like, all right. Every time I see this, I love this movie, by the way. First off, let me just say that up top. But like every time I see that scene, I'm like, this music was a hard choice.
So they actually wrecked that Ferrari.
They did. Oh my gosh! Really?
Yeah, they hit the Aston Martin with the Ferrari and did $80,000 worth of damage to it.
That'll do it.
Yeah, it's a costly start to a movie.
It is. Well, so they had to. This is all done in Monte Carlo, and they had to basically have spotters because they couldn't shut down the roads. They had to have spotters on both sides of the parts that they were doing.
So that truck that comes in the middle, it was actually just a truck on the road. No,
probably
I'm kidding.
Wild.
But yeah, so they had to have spotters to basically call out, okay, you can do the shot now for 30 seconds, go.
Right. Yeah, that's wild.
So it also kicks off with the highest bungee jump from a structure in a movie.
Yeah.
So the drop was over 720 feet.
Woo.
Wow.
And initially when they were talking about doing it, it was one of those things where they said a person cannot physically do this. And the stuntman who did it obviously survived.
Yeah.
And he's actually also one of the helicopter pilots later in the movie.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, who gets shot.
Oh, yeah,
so that was like his a payoff or whatever. He got a cameo in the movie.
That's fun. Yeah.
That's
cool. He had 2 cameos in the movie, but yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. He was Bond in the other.
I get it.
Yeah.
Speaking of cameos, License to Kill in '89 had an advertising campaign to generate interest for the movie where you could win a cameo role in the next James Bond movie.
Oh, wow.
So obviously because of production issues, this was delayed and delayed and delayed.
Yeah, for 6 years.
Our cameo is actually a lady in a gold and black evening dress who looks over Xenia Onatop's shoulder as she's playing Baccarat with James Bond.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
So like that's someone who actually won a contest.
Nice.
And they're in the movie now forever.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's kind of cool, right?
That is awesome.
I didn't know about that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran across that's like the first piece of trivia I found. I was like, oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Ryan kicked us off with I love this movie. I also love this movie.
Yeah.
I think, and we'll get into this maybe a little bit with the next Brosnan we're discussing on this episode, but I think it is the best Brosnan by a pretty hefty margin.
I'd say by a wide margin.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty, I mean, that's a safe statement.
Like for how good a casting Brosnan is as Bond, he got some bad movies.
Really only towards the end. I think Tomorrow Never Dies, and we'll get into that.
I mean, Tomorrow Never Dies, again, it's the second highest rated on IMDb for him. It's just the fall off after
the quality drop off
quick.
is steep.
Yeah. And I blame the early 2000s and the millennium for that.
But it was 97, so.
Well, yeah, but like, I mean, it's the same.
It's the same.
Well, no.
era.
Like for the other films.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, for the other films.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So this is also the first 007 movie in the feature franchise to feature a woman in the role of M.
Yeah.
So that is our Dame Judi Dench.
Judi Dench?
Yeah.
She did the best.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yep.
So funnily enough, this was originally suggested by the Lois Maxwell, who played Miss Moneypenny.
Oh, yeah.
From 62 to 85. She'd made suggestion of having M as a woman, and then even so much as like it's her, like she's been promoted. And then of course they cast
Judi
Dench, which it's kind of hard to be upset about that, but she was.
Yeah.
And
I
can't blame her for it either,
Yeah, no, I mean, especially because she was already, in the franchise for so long that I definitely could see that feel kind of like a spurn.
Yeah.
So I guess I should clarify the 6-year gap between 89 and 95 was the longest gap between Bond movies. 2015 Spectre and No Time to Die 2021 is the same gap, except you have COVID in there. So
it was in production.
It's a different way to blame.
It was supposed to come out in 2020, and then obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I don't really count that too much.
Nah, and it's the same Bond actor.
It is.
It's not like they were between.
Yeah. They weren't between actors and whatnot. This is the first James Bond movie to be released on DVD.
Wow.
Sign of the times.
Yeah. The times be a-changin'.
So yeah, so let's get some opinions on the movie itself.
Yeah.
We've already talked a little bit about music.
Yeah.
A little bit about some stunts. Andrew, give me some opinions. What's your favorite scene?
Oh, my favorite scene. Man, that's a hard one to immediately come
I got
up
mine.
on.
I'm going to cut you off because it's the tank chase. Come on.
Obviously.
Let's go, Ryan.
The best scene in the whole, possibly in any Bond movie. That scene is
I don't know about that.
baller. I'll go that far.
So I know Andrew and I actually watched behind the scenes about that actual scene because they had to time out because the tanks don't go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, right?
Sure. So they got a long
they had to time out how long the tank needed to build up enough speed and then the timing of the car turning the corner. Yeah. So when the car turns the corner, the tank is already going, 50 running at this wall.
Right.
So they had to time it out so they don't just run over the car.
And they only had one shot to do this.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because, there's only so many brick walls that
you can just run a tank through.
You can't just quickly build that wall back up.
Yeah. Do it again. Put the foam in there,
Yeah.
And also there was a big debate about what music to put over that scene. And of course, they end up settling with the classic Bond theme,
which is the best.
Which works
so good,
so well. And I think in that clip that we watched, the video we watched, they were talking about, well, they tried this, they tried that, and then whoever the composer was just well, why are we not just putting this in? And he listened to it and goes, oh yeah, no, that's great.
Well, so my favorite part about this whole scene, and I don't know if this is my favorite scene of the film. But it's phenomenal. It's one of the best sequences in Bond history, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best, but one of the
I'll
best.
reserve judgment.
It's okay.
To say the best. It's one of the best.
Give us a counterpoint here. Come on.
Well, hold on.
All right.
But so the thing I love about this is the shot before this. You don't see that he's just in her yard, and you don't see them getting into the tank.
You don't know that it's going to be a tank. Yeah.
And it's. You see them, driving around the corner, and then the Bond music hits, so he's bursting through the wall. Oh,
yeah.
It's so good.
For me, it's also the cut back to Pushkin where he's drinking, watching him change, just oh boy. Well, that just sets the tone of everything. This guy's getting drunk.
Also, when he jumps in and be use the bumper. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
So my counterpoint is I think my favorite scene of the film, and mostly just because of the kind of hilarity ensues, is when Boris has the grenade pen and he's trying to break the codes,
click,
and click it, and then he runs up to Natalia, he's like, "Give me the codes, Natalia, give me the codes," and then Bond just knocks it away, and then everyone's like, "Oh no!" And then
problem.
Everyone jumps down. I love that scene.
So random. When I was in, I would say 8th grade.
Yeah.
So a little bit after this, 97.
Yeah.
I looked a lot like Alan Cummings. I had the same haircut in this movie, Boris.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Steve was just like, who?
I was like, who?
Boris. I'm invincible. I wore a Hawaiian shirt one day. And I had a pin. I was like, click, click, click.
Nice.
People were like, I am invincible. And I was like, what? Oh, I didn't even mean to do this. No, I'm cosplaying. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no.
I don't even know what that word means because it's 1997. Oh.
So since just going back to vehicles, one of the things that always disappointed me about this film, though, was the lack of us being able to see a Bond car in action. And the reason why is because the Z3 for BMW is still brand new, and they could only get one.
A prototype, yeah. They were allowed one.
Yeah, they were only allowed one, so they couldn't do any kind of
modification.
They could do stunts with it or anything. Yeah.
But that always sticks out to me because I'm just like,
it is kind
of, it feels like such a missed opportunity. But we do get the tank chase, so
sure,
there's some caveats.
They make up for it in other ways.
They do.
That would have been icing on the cake.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw a quick correction here, Andrew. They did do some filming in Russia, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, I know you did. And I was bringing up the whole St. Petersburg. They had the film.
So you're admitting you're wrong.
No, I'm making a qualification here. So Russia as a country had banned the general release of all previous Bond films.
Oh my!
So in order to film here, they were miles of red tape. They had to have almost 150 permits from every utility and commission in the city. And even then, filming came to a halt because a local paper reported the company was destroying the city. And it took them almost a day to convince authorities the only things being destroyed was fabricated scenery.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Total nightmare.
I can imagine, especially because, it's regime change, right?
Well, it's happened, but up to that point, every Bond film was basically been like, these are the bad guys. Why would we support you being here? Yeah. So for me, right, I love this film. This is one of those I could watch over and over and over again.
100%.
Partly again, it's the game because I look at all these scenes and all I can see
you got the nostalgia in there.
Well, but I can just see like playing the game, like going through like the destroyer at the start, and then like the dam,
the satellite or the radio base,
the satellite dish, like there's so many iconic locations because I've played them as the game, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like I think as a whole, it's just a really good story in terms of like what you get for a Bond film, right?
I think it's one of the most solid Bond stories of like it encapsulates what makes a really good Bond movie on so many levels.
Yeah, you have a great cold open. You have some fantastic action sequences peppered in. You have some really fun, kind of bits with gadgets in there. Like it's just kind of the whole package.
Really good villains.
Yeah,
like everything.
Sean Bean as Alex Trevelyan is awesome.
So Sean Bean had auditioned to be Bond when Dalton got it, and now they brought it back for this.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, originally they had also auditioned Liam Neeson to be Bond.
I don't know about that.
He turned it down.
Good, thank you.
That's
My name is Bond.
That's what let Brosnan get in there.
He got taken. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, he saw that. He was like, man, I should have done something with this. Well, get me taken. We'll do this. But yeah, I think, again, there's a lot of firsts with this movie too, right? It's the first use of computer graphics in a Bond film. And it's literally for the pistol barrel in the opening sequence.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
They did a ton of model and scale work as well as
especially for the opening scene.
Yeah.
Well, also building, a fake downtown St. Petersburg to drive a tank through.
Yeah, and the satellite dish in Costa Rica that they go to.
Well, that's a real place.
It is a real place, but there was a model that they made for it. Yeah.
You see that Godzilla effect when the water's coming in, where it's like that's clearly like normal sized water on a Other than that, though, it looked really good.
They actually reversed the footage a couple times.
It looks very silly.
It's all slow mo because that's how it would look in real life.
How it's done. Yeah, you got to take this moment in.
Yeah.
But that actual satellite dish until recently did exist.
Yeah.
It just failed recently.
It's decommissioned now, but also prominent in the movie Contact.
Yes. But it's a huge place. It took the cast when they were there more than 10 minutes to walk from the outside edge to get to the middle.
I mean, it's a big dish.
Yeah. And a lot of those scenes, like in the upper area, Brosnan couldn't do it. He's too scared of heights, so he was never actually out on those platforms.
Yeah, on the big scaffolding and whatnot.
Yeah.
Sean Bean didn't care. He was there.
Sean Bean had no fear.
He was there.
But Sean Bean's just used to dying at this point, so it's fine.
I think this was probably the first movie I'd ever seen Sean Bean.
This was definitely the first one I've seen him in.
Patriot Games came out before this, right?
I didn't see Patriot Games till after.
I was going to say, I saw it after.
I saw Patriot Games before I saw GoldenEye, and I'm pretty sure.
So then, you've seen it.
Yeah, Patriot Games like 92 or 93, I think.
Maybe I saw Patriot Games before. I can't remember. It's fuzzy timeline on that one. But
I love seeing just Sean Bean in stuff.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
He's in Ronin. We should check it out. It's on Amazon. I saw it last night. I got really excited. I do also want to like there's so much that happens in this movie, right?
Yes.
And it hit at such a perfect time in my life where like it was the first Bond I saw in theaters. And I think we mentioned this in one of the other episodes, or I may have said it, but like it was weird how it was like it was my Bond. In my head, because everything I had watched before that was like, Roger Moore, Sean Connery. It was my parents loved James Bond, and we were renting the movies and I loved them. But this was like, it's a start of a new thing. The 90s are different. I'm old enough to go to the theater and watch this. And I don't know, I just love the style. Like a lot of the action scenes are just really solid.
Yeah.
Again, Brosnan's good. Sean Bean's great. And
so... sorry, I'm just going to pick up because you're kind of mentioning people. One of my favorite, two favorite roles, but one of my other favorite guys is John Don Baker.
Joe Don Baker.
Joe Don Baker. Wow, yeah.
Hey, Jimbo, give me that hammer.
Who played the bad guy in that one?
In Living Daylights.
Exactly.
It just gets recast as a good guy as CIA.
Yeah.
Which is a real throw if you watch those back to back. You're like, wait a minute, what just happened here?
Yeah.
But he's really fun, and the guy that plays Valentine is also really fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so I already threw out Liam Neeson, right? So here's a whole listing. Before Pierce Brosnan was cast as James Bond, Liam Neeson, Mel Gibson, Sam Neill, Hugh Grant, and Lambert Wilson, which is not a name I recognize.
Oh, Hugh Grant, please no.
We're all rumored to be in the running for the role. Yeah, Hugh Grant.
Robbie Coltrane, sorry for Valentine's actor.
Yeah.
He's probably one of my favorite parts of the film, just because of the absurd comedy that happens in that scene.
He's a great character, right?
He is.
Minnie Driver. The singer.
Stand by who's strangling the cat. So she got paid $5,000 for that sequence.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's not a bad day's work.
That's not a bad day's
Hopefully
work.
it only took a day.
And man, I got to shout out Xenia Onatopp. I love me some Famke Janssen. And that, I had a sexual awakening in this movie, okay, because of her when I was
whoa.
Step on me, mommy.
Yes. I remember coming out of the theater being like, I think I just learned something about myself.
This is a family-friendly show, gentlemen.
But
she also said she was not prepared for what it was like to be a Bond girl and kind of the way the attention from media shifted towards her after that happened. I think she's maybe a little horrified by it.
Probably, because up until then, like, she had been on an episode of Star Trek. She'd been in some other smaller stuff.
Yeah, like big roles.
First
Yeah,
this is a big role, yeah.
Well, and especially Xenia, because she's such a memorable villain.
Yes.
Just because she is incredibly capable at murdering lots of people.
And she takes, like, just the utter glee she takes, like, machine gunning people down.
Oh, yeah. Like, glee's not the right word.
No,
but
I was trying to keep it family friendly. I was trying to steer it back.
Elation. So Isabella, I'm going to murder this. Skorupko?
Give it another shot.
Isabella Skorupko.
Faster?
As Natalia Semyonova. She was actually quite good. I liked her.
Yeah, she was good.
Especially in some of the more, like, emotional moments in the film. Like, she's not an action star. No. She definitely, but she has the emotional, like, weight to bring.
The destruction of, like, the radar installation where she's in it and everything. Yeah, and, like, as she's, like, going through the aftermath.
Yeah, she did a really good job, and I've always liked her just as a character in the Bond kind of thing, because she's very much her own person.
Yeah, both Xenia and her have, like, a lot more agency than a lot of the previous Bond girls have. Like, they're not just eye candy or just here.
She's very capable. She's a capable programmer.
Yeah. Well, and she has no problem talking back to Bond and telling him what to do.
The bit when he's trying to cut out of the train and she's, like, yelling back, like, trying to track and, like, mad at him for interrupting her. Yeah.
That whole train bit also was a great sequence. I do want to talk about the wonderful, wonderful world of the mid-90s and how they thought internet and, like, hacking and stuff worked.
There's so many bad examples of hacking from the 90s.
There would be this, like, icon that it's hey, like, I got my cartoon drawn at the pier version of myself that appears on multiple computers, probably running different operating systems, and then I'm going to send a spike to you.
Yeah. It's very Hollywood. Yeah. I think the best version of hacking from that kind of era is war games. Because it's actually how it works.
That's real hacking. But that's also from the
Hackers?
80s. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
No, it's so bad.
Or Swordfish.
Hackers is worse.
Hackers is way worse. Hackers is way worse.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of been scrolling through some trivia while y'all are talking here.
Yeah.
So the ending of the pre-credit sequence. So this is on the motorcycle jumping to the plane.
Yeah.
So that featured 2 stunt actors. So we have one, Jacques Malnout. I just butchered his name, I guarantee. Rides the motorcycle to the edge and jumps.
Okay.
And then BJ Worth is actually diving after the plane. So the plane is a real plane. It's a working aircraft.
Wow.
With Worth stated the hardest part of the stunt was the fact that it was leaking fuel. So there's fuel flying back into his face while he was diving after it. That's insane. I assumed that was some skill. Like they just filmed the dude falling and they superimposed the plane in there or something.
I mean, that whole sequence is just great. Yeah. Obviously, Bond has a lot of plot armor running away from,
That's every Bond.
It is every Bond, but it's still just a great sequence of him just, like, running through and then, everything blows up.
Yeah. It's really well thought out, planned out, and choreographed, too. Like, just the execution of it's like, I remember the first time I saw it being like, oh, boy.
Yep.
I'm ready for this movie, So is there anything you guys don't like about this movie?
Well, there are some parts of it, right, as a teen at the time that were great that maybe don't age as well. Like Xinyan Yatop just in general.
Disagree hard, but continue.
Well, I'm looking at the trivia here too. She said she nearly had a heart attack after she read how she's supposed to kill her victims in the script. She just had this moment of, oh God.
I mean, I don't think there's really a lot of stuff in this that ages poorly. There's definitely a lot of stuff here that is probably too risque to watch as an 11-year-old, which is how old I was when I watched it.
Right, it's at least your parents are like, hopefully this is going over his head. Meanwhile, you're over there going, oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I didn't really enjoy about this film outside of the fact of not having a cool Bond car sequence. But I mean, everything else, like I said, is kind of like the whole package.
It really is.
You get a lot of like really fun sequences. The story makes sense. There's some good comedy in there. And Pierce Brosnan is clearly at his peak Bond in this.
Well, and I think too, introducing, like Judi Dench as M, who she obviously maintained that role, which that was a great casting choice. Like we get a lot of new while also maintaining a lot of the best parts of the old.
Yeah.
And also we get to leave a lot of the bad parts of the old behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or some of the questionable stuff behind, if you will.
Actually, there is one spot when they're on the beach in Costa Rica and Bond just kind of forces himself onto Natalia.
Well, yeah, that's always
poorly. I'm just going to go ahead and point that out.
That's always a problem with Bond films where you're just kind of like, it's like the hard lovemaking. It's like, that's not really...
kind of cringe.
Doesn't age.
Yeah.
But then we get the great clip at the end of the movie where they're in the field.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no one within 100 miles of here. Then Baker walks up and he's just like, all right, Marines, roll out. They're all like, just all around where he was.
You just have this Marine just like 2 feet away from him just staring.
They're like laying on top of one. He's like, could y'all move over?
They're like, this tuft of grass is really hard. You're just like,
that is a really good like ending scene though. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, again, it's
the only thing that's like super cheesy though is that the helicopters come down, and I'm like, there's no way you didn't feel the wind.
There's
the chopper,
no sneaky helicopter.
Helicopters are the anti-stealth.
Well, and that's the thing about the stealth chopper in this too. There's like it's a stealth chopper. I'm like, you could still hear it coming from way off.
No. It's not stealth chopper. It's EMP hardened.
Well, it's stealth too. It's off the radar.
It's also hard to track. But the big one was that GoldenEye couldn't affect it.
Yeah. So they could actually steal the GoldenEye without having to, explain themselves.
But I mean, I think for the story, Sean Bean's. While there's some questions of like, well, how did he survive? And some other issues there, right? Where you're like,
but
like
got out.
His motivations and kind of the personal animosity between the two of them, I think those really heighten the film.
They do.
Especially moving away from like the world will be destroyed, all humanity dies, whatever kind of stakes.
Because this was the first time that they had an agent go bad.
Yes. This is the first time we've seen it. Yeah. And I think that really pays off well.
It does.
Especially with some of the playbacks where like, he's like, I gave you the same time you gave me. And she's like, Natalia's like, what does that mean? He's like, it means we have 3 minutes, not 10.
Yeah.
Well,
which is really good. I mean, classic Bond villain problems where they tell the good guy their plan.
Well, also they don't want to watch him die. They're like, I have better things to do than watch my greatest rival die. Really? You do? You sure about that? You don't want to
trying to catch a flight? Like, like 4 minutes?
The action sequence in them escaping the archives right before the tank chase is really good.
That's a really good one.
It's very visceral and like it really feels like they're trying to escape, this heavily guarded kind of thing. And whenever they knock over all of the archives bookshelves to close the door, there is a singular person on every single one of those bookshelves basically guiding it.
To make sure it
hits properly.
Oh, wow.
Like on the far side of the bookshelf? Yeah. That's fun.
That's pretty fun.
It also took them, I think it was like, that specific scene, I can't remember the exact number for it. I'd have to look it up. But there were so many blank spots of like basically explosions and stuff.
So they fired 500 blanks.
That's what it was
for the sequence, and the whole production and crew basically had to have earplugs or headphones because it was indoors. It's just loud.
Yeah, it's just really loud.
Which is again one of those things that a lot of times gunfire, movies, they just kind of ignore.
Yeah.
The fact that, we just like rattle off, an assault rifle right next to you. Now we're going to tend to have a normal conversation and a normal speaking. No.
Yeah, no. I remember Natalia's actress talking about this scene and just being so terrified of like just how loud it was and how absurd the shots were just because of how like visceral they were
and how tight that space is. You get that metal grate flooring. Because
it's still, you can still get hurt by blanks and small explosions and stuff like that. So it's still dangerous. Obviously, you're not being shot at with live guns.
The little spark pops that they have going off, to represent like ricocheting bullets and stuff. That stuff I'm sure can hurt too if you like get too close to it.
Yeah. So the tank chase scene also, it took 4 weeks to film.
Man.
They used 3 real T-55s for the scene. And then they also used they built a dummy tank around a Saladin armored car for some of the other chase sequences so it could go faster.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
wow. So they actually cut an extra hatch into the tank because where he's driving is not where the driver would be. The driver would actually be on the other side. And they didn't, because of the way they blocked the shots and everything, they didn't want to do that.
Yeah, it makes sense for him to be on that other side.
Yeah. And then in order to make the tank skid, they would dump several gallons
of oil?
No, like soap basically on the road. It's kind of the opposite of oil, really.
Oil-ish?
Not the same.
It's not the same at all.
Do you cook with soap? Do you wash your hands in oil,
Try to
Andrew?
go fry some chicken in a bucket of soap.
Would you like to know?
Yeah. You fry your chicken in Dawn?
But there was one minor accident with the tank where it ran over a camera worth $200,000.
Ooh, come on, y'all! We're wrecking cars. We're running over camera. Half the budget of this movie.
They meant to run over cars. They didn't mean to run over the camera.
Yeah. So the shot of whenever it burst through the Perrier.
90,000 cans of Perrier.
Yeah, and some of them were filled, some of them were empty. Obviously,
how'd they get that sponsorship?
They only had one shot to do it, and they had 2 trucks, and they basically had to cut the truck in half. And then, like, basically pig weld it, like, right together just to make sure that it could hold.
Just give it a weak weld,
and then it goes through. Yeah. They got it on the first take, luckily.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, can you imagine the reset on that? All right, guys, get out. Let's go gather up these cans.
What do you mean, all of them? We got to get every can.
Every single can off the road now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a great film. This is one of the ones, as we've been going through this series, and I've been watching them with my wife, who hadn't seen any Bond up to this point.
Oh, what did she think about this one?
Right? I've been waiting to get to this one because
to see what
it's a lot of fun. Obviously, there's some cringe in there with Xenia and some other stuff. But overall, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we've harped on this, where it feels kind of like that moment where there's a perfect meld of the dark and serious, the fun and quippy, the camp, the action. Like everything really kind of came together to make this film what it is.
Yeah.
And then those circumstances gradually kind of filtered away as we progressed throughout the Brosnan career as Bond.
But that's when you're basically moving away from Martin Campbell as a director, and you definitely, like, I really think that the 2000s and the turning of the millennium really ruined a lot of films.
Stuff
I mean, it did. I have a hard time pointing to just great films made in 2001.
Yeah,
I can't think of off the top of my head.
Was that the year Matrix 2 came out?
That's not a great film.
No, I don't think so either. But
Matrix 1 was nice.
There's good stuff there, but there's
going to be some phenomenal Schindler's List that came out this year.
Yeah. Schindler's List 2 was 2001.
Yeah,
well, I do think too with this movie, not only is it like a perfect example of a Bond movie, and it's really good on a lot of levels because it delivers so much.
It does.
It's when you look at like the end of Roger Moore's career, so like the last couple of his movies that were not great,
right?
And then the Dalton movies, which
they're both good.
Not to like knock Dalton himself, but like the Living Daylights, there's like plot issues everywhere. It's very convoluted, and like so to go from a lot of that, and then the second Dalton is very dark. It's about revenge.
It's very dark and it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of plot holes in it, but it is not really, I'll say, a Bond film.
Yeah,
so
when it doesn't have a spy movie feel to it.
Yeah. The last really good like Bond movie that feels like a quintessential Bond movie is probably
Spy Who Loved Me?
Yeah, late 70s Roger Moore.
Yeah, there's been a long drought.
For Your Eyes Only and Spy Who Loved Me, basically.
So
there's been a long
late
drought
70s Bond. So you've had almost 20 years, really, when you think about it, of like like 15 years.
Yeah, 15
of
like
mediocre
good
Bond films.
This is what a Bond movie, should be, and it hits on every level. The plot's good, the characters are good, the casting's good. Because even with the Living Daylights, there's a couple of the casting that's just kind of who's the Russian general dude that doesn't sound Russian at all?
Oh, he doesn't even try. Yeah.
That guy. There's stuff like that. There's little.
But then you go to this and you look at Pushkin or whatever,
right?
And it's like that dude looks, because he has the big hat. Like this dude looks like.
Oh, you're thinking Ormov.
Ormov, not Pushkin. Ormov.
Pushkin's
the defense minister.
Yeah.
But you get to this one and the casting is just on point.
Yeah,
the music's great.
But Pushkin also looks like how I'd imagine a Russian defense minister should look. But yeah,
so I think that played into it also. Is it like you've had that many years since there was like a very Bond,
a big Bond moment. Yeah. So it sounds kind of like we're winding down GoldenEye here. Yep. We hit about everything we want to hit.
Let's move on to Robert Murdoch.
Robert Murdoch, yes, but Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch.
I don't know.
It's not Robert. It's not Robert. It's Rupert.
It's Rupert. But
it's also neither of those. It's Elliot Carver.
It's Elliot Carver. Yeah. But before we jump into Tomorrow Never Dies, if you like what you heard and you want to listen to more, go check out spoilersintendedpodcast.com. We got a whole bunch of our previous episodes on there.
Yeah.
All kinds of things, links to things like our Discord, our Patreon if you want to support the show, socials.
Yep. And if you did mention our Discord, we'd love to talk about all sorts of stuff that are not podcast related, what we're listening to, what games we're playing, what hobbies we're doing, all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah. And on social, we post every week what we're going to be reviewing the next week and where you can watch it because we want you to watch along with us. So check us out.
Yeah. On that note, there's no spoiler wall to cross because we crossed it a long time ago.
Yep.
We're going straight into Pierce Brosnan's second offering as Bond with Tomorrow Never Dies, 1997.
Yep.
And I think the highlight of I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. The highlight of this film is the fact that we get to see Michelle Yeoh working opposite him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is really, really fun.
It's very different from your typical
standard Bond
girl.
Yep.
And we just talked, right? GoldenEye, Natalia gets a lot to do and she's competent. Michelle Yeoh's character is a different level of that.
And she is a complete force.
Yes. So much so that when they film the fight scene in the bike shop.
Yep. That's her stunt crew. I'm pretty sure.
No, it's Jackie Chan's stunt crew.
It's a Hong Kong stunt.
Because the stunt crew they were working with would not work with her because she's full contact stunt.
Yep.
So basically she's punching them and they're like, hey, she hits so hard, I don't want.
So this is right after Super Cop. Really Police Story 3. She's kind of having a resurgence in her career at this point, and this was like one of her first American roles.
Western roles, yeah.
So for me, when I watched this movie, I had seen Super Cop before
this.
seeing this.
Oh, so you're
like
excited.
Really fresh. I saw Rumble in the Bronx, Super Cop, and I was let down with how much I felt like they held her back.
Oh, 100%.
Upon first viewing.
You don't have like a big martial arts moment. It's very tight, quick scenes.
It is, yeah.
So first, though, before we get too deep in this, let's give a synopsis. So this is James Bond sets out to stop a media mogul's plan to induce war between China and the UK in order to obtain exclusive global media coverage. This is the ultimate wags the dog kind of moment here.
Yeah.
Just being done by the media.
And it also dates itself so hard with the reliance on newspapers.
It does.
And not like the internet, it's like, not that wasn't the world in 97, absolutely. And they probably shot this in 96.
Right, but when you watch it now and like everyone's getting their news from the newspaper.
Yeah.
And there's also some irony in that because in GoldenEye, right, M has the great quip about where Bond is like, is this live? She's like, unlike the Americans, we don't like to get our bad news from CNN.
Yeah.
And then in this film, she's reading the bad news from the newspaper.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and say I actually like this film a whole lot.
Okay.
I think it's fun.
I think
fun.
I think this has a whole lot of really good elements in it. Especially some really fantastic action sequences that happen throughout, peppered throughout the film. But you also get a different kind of bad guy than what you're normally used to seeing.
A lot of Bond villains are.
It is absolutely dated in 1997.
Oh, sure.
For what it is. But Elliot Carver, the main bad guy, like the media mogul kind of megalomaniac, I think he's a fantastic villain.
All right, now I got a proposal for you here.
Bond fact. Here we go. It's back.
Anthony Hopkins was originally cast as Elliot Carver.
Oh, I could see that.
He was on set, like there for filming, and he walked off set after 3 days because it was so chaotic.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can also see that.
There was no completed shooting script because there's a lot of pressure on Eon Productions at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And new pages of the screenplay were being delivered every morning.
Yeah. But so Jonathan Pierce did a fantastic job as Elliot Carver, I think.
No. I don't think I'm not saying that we lost something per se, but also it could have been a slightly different spin on the character.
It would have been a different tone.
It would, absolutely. But he just plays such a good heel, I guess.
Yeah, no, he any kind of show or movie that he's in where he is in this kind of role, he does a fantastic job. Like he's always a good snarky, arrogant bad guy.
Yeah. Well, because he's also the father in Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. Well, he's in the other films.
He shows up going forward. Yeah,
but yeah, he's just that kind of. He's just a good kind of like he's just always there to kind of annoy you.
Yeah, he's got that. Again, it's just that level of arrogance and that like, I'm smarter than you and I know I'm better than you type like attitude.
Well, okay, so I'm curious because like I've gotten lukewarm reactions every time I've said that I really like this film. So why don't you like it, Ryan?
I think for me, it's just that it's lesser than GoldenEye on every level. I think the casting is mostly good, but not as solid as GoldenEye, right? Like Brosnan, I think his part in the movie is fine. Like he still does good as Bond, right? I think like some of the secondary bad guys aren't as memorable, aren't as fun.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be Xenia.
No, I mean, it's not even like Stamper. Boris or like, and like
Ryan wants Stamper to jump out of a closet and wrap a dude up in his legs.
Gosh, that'd be fantastic.
I mean, but like, okay, from a normal, like I'll say a standard like bodyguard / goon.
Yeah.
He does a great job.
He's a classic. Yeah. He's what I would call a classic Bond henchman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna stop you right there.
Okay.
Because I have something to throw in here. It's trivia related, right?
I'm gonna back up, you throw it down.
All right. So initially, Ricky Jay, who plays Henry Gupta, who's like kind of like the tech side of the things, right?
Techno-terrorist.
So he's an acclaimed magician who does lots of sleight of hand and has a world record for the fastest thrown playing cards.
He's also a writer. He's written like a lot of stuff.
We're talking the dude's record is 200 feet where the card travels 90 miles an hour.
Wow.
Like ripping these,
that doesn't feel like physically possible.
Hold on. So the producers...
It is magic's real, guys.
So the producers, because they had him and he could do these things, they wanted a scene where he threw cards at Brosnan.
Ah, that'd be so cool.
Okay, so hold on.
Yeah.
So really camp, but really cool.
So to block it out and test it, they set him up 50 to 75 feet from Brosnan and asked him to hit him in the face, right? So Ricky told them straight up, this is not a good idea. Safety is not gonna work here for this.
Yeah.
So they like talked him into finally doing this. So at this distance, he just drilled Pierce Brosnan right in the forehead, like right above his eye with a card. And they never asked him to do it again.
Wow.
And Brosnan somehow survived.
Right? So apparently in DVD deleted scenes, they show him doing the card throws.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to have to look up.
I want to check that out.
I'll have to pull it up on my Blu-ray copies and pull that.
Yeah. I saw that bit, and then Ryan, of course, was going off about the villains. Like, well, we could have had, the hat throwing scene, except with cards, ripping, cutting through stuff or whatever.
I do like that the plot, like the idea of what Carver's trying to do, and like him as a villain is something we haven't seen before in the Bond world.
I like that concept.
Yeah,
I think it's some of the other. So like the parking deck scene.
Okay.
I think hurts the film.
What?
No, hold on. Not because it's bad action, but because it feels like it lasts forever. It feels like it feels like the kind of sequence where they kind of start repeating themselves, and it's like
I can agree there.
If you have this happen as like a quick bit, and he gets down a couple levels and then gets out and gone, and then we can have some other action later.
Yeah,
that's good. That parking deck though, that piece goes for a really long time.
Okay, I can agree there. And I also agree that the bike chase through Hong Kong is a little long and also kind of ridiculous, but a little long.
When the helicopter is like slowly doing like this down the street, I'm like, that's not how helicopters work.
So they had to have I'm pretty sure they had to have like a cable that was holding it a specific way, like with like a rig to basically move it down.
I feel like that too is like, if they could have just done a quick shot of the chopper going like, I'm going to get you, and then he slides, it's good. It angles 45 degrees and goes, I'm going to come at you for 3 minutes very slowly.
For you to figure this out.
Chopping up like...
I'm going to chop up like, my blades are going to be hitting everything. I'm not going to crash. I'm 1 foot from the ground, and I'm just going to, and like, so again, that's just a minor thing.
It's a little ridiculous.
But it doesn't feel as like a lot of the ridiculous stuff that happened in GoldenEye felt like still somewhat conceivable in this crazy world. Yeah. And this one, it just felt like that was cool on paper, but then it was the execution was just like, they should have just had it. You go down for a minute, and then he slides under immediately.
He has a perfect
totally
reaction.
Yeah.
And then, so Michelle Yeoh's character, I like her. I just wish she had been, I think, a part of it sooner, because it takes a while for her to finally like
show up.
Actually, she appears in a couple of scenes, but it's like halfway through the movie before she's actually a part of what's going on. Yeah. I would have loved to have her in earlier. And then Terry Hatcher, compared to like Natalia in the first one, is just less.
Just less of a
character.
There's also an interesting backstory at play there that they don't really go very far into.
It kind of just brings it up and then it just moves on.
Fun fact there, initial casting had Monica Bellucci as that role. And Brosnan said they ended up not getting her because the productions are a bleeping bunch of idiots. Can't say it on air.
Yeah.
But going back to Michelle Yeoh, that motorcycle scene, so right before they did the initial shots of the chase, the director, who is Roger Spottiswoode, which is a name I recognize because it's a weird name, but I can't tell you what else he's done. I'm gonna task Andrew on this.
I got it.
Yeah.
So he took Pierce Brosnan and Michelle Yeoh aside individually without the other knowing it, and told them both that each of them was the driver of the motorcycle and not to let the other person drive the motorcycle. When they get up to the motorcycle and they're arguing over who's supposed to drive, that's them actually being just confused because the director bamboozled them.
Which is good direction or bad direction.
I think it's good because like that take of them not knowing is in the movie. And I think it's easier to actually have a real reaction of, what are you doing? You're not driving. I'm driving. No, I'm driving. Than them trying to act that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a more natural flow.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you know this name.
I don't know. The name looks super familiar.
Okay, so he has done some very like household name films like The Sixth Day or Shake Hands with the Devil or
classic
A Street Cat Named Bob.
Everyone knows the street cat
named Bob. Who doesn't have a copy of that on their shelf?
Or The Beach House.
I don't know. That name, I think it's the last name just looks very familiar, and I couldn't tell you why.
Yeah, I don't know. He also directed the movie Hiroshima from 1995.
So how did he get this gig?
That is a great question.
How did they tap this guy?
I do not have an answer to that.
He win at a poker game?
Yeah, he also directed
Baccarat. Come on now,
The
Baccarat.
Pursuit
Get it right.
of D.B. Cooper.
Okay.
From 1981.
All right.
And Terror Train from 1980.
Take that.
So also, interestingly, this movie relied very heavily on gadgetry.
It did.
Because there was some criticism that GoldenEye didn't, which I think is weird criticism thinking about GoldenEye. There's a lot of gadgets in GoldenEye.
There are, yeah.
And to be like, oh, there wasn't enough. Like, do you mean like the car, I guess? They went hard on the car.
They did, which was good.
In this, which, I mean, it was pretty entertaining. I mean, the whole interplay between him and Q when he first picks it up and starts driving it and the snarky sassiness of the car is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love like all of the action sequences in this film. I genuinely have a good time with.
I think other than, the car part kind of just keeps going.
It goes for a little while,
and the Hong Kong, the motorcycle chase, I can see that one too.
Yeah.
My biggest objection really is just the stealth boat. It's not
the stealth boat doesn't make any sense.
It's not that it's not stealthy because like that object actually existed.
Yeah.
Like, they made this. It's that it's stealthy and it gets like 30 feet from the target, the British ship.
And there's no way.
Like, do you not have windows,
it's over there.
guys? Yeah, like I know it's at nighttime, but it's right there.
I can see it. It's a big. It's like kind of like octagonish. Thing,
right? Look at this weird boat coming at us, guys. You know,
I do like the concept of the torpedo drill.
Oh, the drill torpedo.
It's really cool.
That's very cool.
It's really cool.
And to be clear, I don't dislike this movie. I just don't think it's as good as
No, I don't think so either.
GoldenEye. And I don't think I like it quite as much as you do. I do enjoy it. I just like there's just something. It's just slightly not there in some of the scenes.
So I love, and this is probably one of my favorite cold opens for any of the Bond films, is whenever he's basically hijacking F5.
Like he blows up the whole. Yes, I think it's an F5.
F5,
but he blows up the arms dealer.
Oh, it's so cool
with the missile coming in to steal the nuke, so it doesn't irradiate the whole area.
Yeah, like I think that's just a whole really fun sequence because you get. Because, you know, obviously we all know that it's James Bond that's there. But then like this, like the reveal of him whenever he's, you know, the guy's trying to light the cigarette and, you know, he's like, hey, you need a light. And then he punches the guy. Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, there's the Bond
there
I know.
Is. Yeah.
And, you know, what is he doing? His job.
Well, I think, too, it does a good job where like a lot of the Bond openings, you know, the cold opens don't really set up any of the actual story. They're just kind of like, here's this fun little action scene with Bond to get us going. This one, you get to see the British general or whoever it is making like rash decisions, so that later when the Chinese stuff they're trying to play the British government against him, you know, the rash decisions he's making they track. Like this is his character. You know, he was doing this in the cold open or whatever.
Yeah, I love that whole sequence. It's really fun and. It's totally ridiculous and could never happen in real life. But him shooting the ejector seat into the other dude's plane.
Yeah, and then the plane blows up.
The plane blows up.
So my only problem with that whole sequence is just like the dude's got a cord around your neck and he's presumably holding onto it pretty tight.
There's no way.
When that ejection goes off, the dude just rips your head off. Like
or at least your chin.
Yeah, like or you were horribly mangled from that. So I do like I like the concept of the movie and like how we get a villain, what the bad guy is trying to accomplish, and how he's going about it.
Yeah,
and I really like this quote from the screenwriter. So he made a 9-word pitch to the producers: "Words are the new weapons, and satellites the new artillery."
I mean,
I like that's a great because that's a very modern concept, right?
Yeah.
The idea that you can manipulate and basically create war and like, do we need the nuke? No, because we can just convince them to nuke each other.
Because we've got newspapers.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. Like, you know, if you did have this kind of, you know, megalomaniac kind of person, like there is definitely a way, at least probably back then, well, actually probably now too, but to manipulate, you know, the masses into some level of like, you know, like, oh, well, yeah, this is clearly like, you know, clearly the Chinese is her fault, you know?
Yeah.
And with that, you have, it's just a different kind of villain where like he's like, well, I'm not doing anything, you know. It's like it's all you guys, you know, and I'm just covering the footage. Obviously, you know, he's fabricating it and all this other kind of stuff. But I just liked him as a good Bond villain because he didn't feel like hoo-ha, you know, like twiddling the fingers. And, I don't know.
Again, it was very different. We haven't seen anybody that's like, I'm going to use the media to like.
Yeah, and we haven't really got anyone else since then. Either.
No.
I don't know that you need to retread it. It's just like it was the first time that it wasn't like I'm gonna blow up the ice caps or I'm gonna like what was the guy in Spy Who Loved Me? Was he gonna like flood the world?
Flood the world.
Yeah.
Which cool villain in and of his own self, you know, his own right. But it was refreshing to see him, and I think he did good. One of my favorite scenes with him is when he has this tablet in his hand, and there's all the screen, and he goes with his finger, like one-handed typing, and it's so hard and fast, and it's like clearly you're not typing anything. Like, it was just like I don't know what they told him in that scene, like direction was. Just go nuts in this tablet. There it is, and it's like no.
Yeah. So I
laughed
think
really hard at that.
What hurts the movie, and so Brosnan's been quoted as saying the production was like pulling teeth, right? And they constantly had script changes, all kinds of stuff going on. So MGM had just been bought, and there was a ton of pressure from executives because the company had just been bought and they wanted the release to coincide with MGM's public offering.
Oh,
and then have like a big film. So I think
they're kind of like against the gun here.
Right. Well, the time considerations aren't good. There's a lot of changes constantly happening. Like the production's kind of a mess. I think that's what hurts it, because I think the bones, like the concepts and stuff they have in there, the people they have in place are great. They just don't have the opportunity to really nail it like they did with GoldenEye.
Yeah. I mean, that feels accurate. It feels like the basic idea was great, but like the execution was rushed, or like, you know, the production may have been like a bit of a mess.
Or there's like a bunch of reshoots, and because the car parking deck scene was a bunch of reshoots. They had to do it in 2 different places.
Oh, interesting.
And they also went through, they used 17 BMWs for those sequences.
Dang. I mean, that thing goes through a lot.
Well, partly because they destroyed some.
Well, they also need the gadgets to pop out of the car.
Right, and they also had it set up as a hidden driver car.
Yeah.
So that you could see it from the outside. You wouldn't see anybody, but there's somebody in there driving.
Yeah. He's like in the floorboards.
Yeah. So they had to modify cars to do that. So it's stuff like that where I feel like they committed a lot of time and effort and money to.
Yeah.
As opposed to some of the other elements that could have been better
story
fleshed out, or just in general.
So one of the things that I really like that I haven't mentioned yet. So this like you said, is a lot of GoldenEye is better in basically what it does. But the sequence of essentially him putting the grenade into like the little glass thing, and then having like the little small detonator that shatters the glass. On command.
Oh, and it lets the spoon pop off. He's already pulled the pin, but the glass doesn't let the spoon come off. Yeah.
I love that little like kind of thing, but they just did it better in GoldenEye because you have the grenade bomb or grenade pen.
The pen,
same kind of idea.
Exact same, here's get a diversion. I've already been captured. Let's figure this out.
And they have the same moment too in the archives where the bookshelves close the door.
Yeah.
With the underwater sequence where the torpedo racks close the door.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of stuff where it feels like they were reaching for things that worked.
Yeah.
And they went right back to the film that just came out not that long ago.
Yeah, not really pulling from like some like callbacks from like Spike Love Me or some older
like you
ones.
could have gone further back or come up with something new. I don't know. So I asked it in GoldenEye. I'm gonna ask it here. Favorite scene.
I already said mine. Cold open. Period.
Yeah, and the cold open's great.
Yeah, I think mine's the motorcycle. No, after the motorcycle chase where Michelle Yeoh is like doing.
Oh yeah.
That sequence that ends with them taking the shower together, like that. That run right there, I think, is my favorite.
It's really good.
And then, of course,
from the I'm driving, you're driving, the swapping back and forth,
the turning, and like them having to like switch who's in front of where on the motorcycle is actually pretty great.
It's good,
and it feels very like a Jackie Chan style martial art movie.
The stunt of them going down the banner? The poster
that was my because when you see the big banner, like I saw it, and I couldn't really remember a whole lot from the film, and I saw that and I was like, oh, they're gonna like pull down that. Like, yep, there it is.
And,
okay,
and then they split him in half, which I love. Just like honestly, like this film has some really fantastic sequences in it.
It does. It definitely does.
Just, but like kind of like you said, it's not a complete package like GoldenEye was.
It's not as polished or well executed overall. As it could have been.
Yeah, but this is definitely worthy of the second spot in our Brosnan thing. The other two are
they fall. We fall down pretty hard, pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, like to me, it's like GoldenEye is
the pinnacle,
and then you have like Tomorrow Never Dies is like solid but not as well executed. And then you have World Is Not Enough that is like less of a good idea and less executed than you have
Die Another Day, which is just
like
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, so it does. The curve is like
it's a really steep cliff,
quick gradient there.
Because I mean, for me, I feel like GoldenEye is a top 5 Bond film. Period.
I think so. Yeah,
like pretty comfortably in there.
Easily.
Like, I love this film. I love Tomorrow Never Dies, but I wouldn't put it up in like a top 5.
Right.
No, it would definitely probably hit my top 10 easily. But probably not a top 5.
Yeah, I mean, you only have 26 total to pick from. So I think Tomorrow Never Dies making the top 10 is pretty believable.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset about that. I don't think. But top 5,
The main thing is, so long as it pushes Live and Let Die out of the top 10.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Live and Let Die is easily in the top 5.
Get that film out of here.
Easily top 5. This is a preview of our Bond opening episode on Patreon, where I screech at these animals about Live and Let Die, and
he would not shut up about it.
Oh, I had to get that shot in there.
I knew it was coming too. I was like, get Live and Let Die out of here. No one likes that film except for Ryan.
I'm gonna put it on repeat when I go home tonight.
Just to spite us.
Just to spite you.
Your wife's like, you've already watched it 3 times. Like, and I'll do it again.
But I'll do it as many times as I need to.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, it sounds like we covered it pretty well.
Yeah,
We've
I
run
think
through
so.
it all.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you. Your favorite Bond film, your favorite Bond scene.
Yeah.
Especially Brosnan or any of the others we've already hit on.
Yeah.
If you want to let us know, we'd love to hear from you. We love to see some reviews out there, or whatever podcast provider you're on. You know, shoot us a message, give us some comment, like, share.
Yeah, share it with a friend. Send this to anybody you know that would like this kind of content, this kind of a podcast. Yeah, text them, email them, mail them an actual letter.
Tell your cat. I don't know.
Write it on a physical piece of paper and mail it. Do whatever you got to do. Just let somebody know about this podcast.
However, if you really like the podcast, you can absolutely support us by joining our Patreon for even just as low as $1 a month. That gives you access to all of our bonus episodes that we've already done, but that also guarantees you that you're going to get one bonus episode every month.
Yes.
Forever until we get done. I don't know.
They're a lot of fun. They're a different format. They're not just another movie review.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're curious, we've been referencing, if you're curious to hear Ryan screech about Bond openings, it's there. It's just $1.
It is. And then we're definitely going to have some more Bond-related content as we're getting closer to the end, which is Daniel Craig, which is going to be coming up next.
I mean, if we stretch this out long enough, we could even do it for no. They
haven't even announced the new Bond yet. But yeah, so the next Daniel Craig ones are going to be Casino Royale and Skyfall. And, look forward to those because one of those is one of my favorite Bond films, and I'm not going to tell you which one because you have to listen to the episode.
I'm going to pick the other one and just declare it to be the best.
You're wrong.
Just to make it angry.
Just preemptively declare
whatever you're choosing, it's wrong.
All right. Well, on that note, that is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Ryan.
And every spoiler was intended.